All right, hey guys, Cordius here, and we're talking. This video is for area of a circle. What first we need to do is we need to talk about what the area is, okay, and then we can talk about how to find the area of a circle. So when we're talking about area is how much space an object takes up. Okay, so if we were asking if I had like a square, for example, if I want to know what the area of the square is, that means if I were to lay this square down in real life somewhere, how much space would that square take up? So, um, area of a circle, that's what we're trying to figure out how much space is within the circle, how much space does it take up. Okay, so it includes all the space inside that shape. So, for area of a circle, there's a few vocabulary terms that we need to know. And some of this may be reviewed, some of it may not be. The first thing is here we have our circle, is we need to know what the diameter is. Okay, diameter. The diameter is a straight line that goes from one end of the circle to the other end of the circle, but it goes through the middle. Okay, but so it has to go through the center of the circle and it has to start from one end and go all the way to the other end. So for example, this right here is not a diameter. Okay, this would not be the diameter because this does not go through the center of the circle. This goes way off to the side. Okay, so the diameter of a circle goes from one end to the other, but it goes through the middle. The radius is our other term. Radius is a straight line that goes from one end of the circle and stops in the center. So the radius starts on the end of starts on the circle, but then it just stops right in the middle of the circle. Okay, so the radius is actually half of the diameter. Okay, so radius, I would get this down too in our notes if you're taking them down, is equals half of the diameter. Okay, the radius is half of the diameter, and that's important to know. Okay, so that means if I were to take a radius and add it to itself or multiply it by 2, that would give me the length of my full diameter. Okay, so the diameter and radius are the two most important pieces of the circle that we need to know, and they're the only pieces that we need to know when we're looking at area. So when we're finding the area of a circle, we have to use a formula. So the area, this A right here is for area of a circle, is equal to pi r squared. So the r is the radius. Okay, so what we do is if I ever want to find the area of a circle, I need to figure out what my radius is. I plug it into this formula, and then I just solve by using my order of operations, by solving my exponent first, and then I multiply by pi last. And just a reminder, we use 3.14 for pi. Okay, 3.14 for pi. So let's look and see what exactly it is that I'm talking about here. So here I have a circle, and I want to know what the area of this circle is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down my formula of pi r squared. So I have a circle, and I have the distance between the end of the circle to the center of the circle, and it stops, and that distance is 3. Okay, so at first I need to ask myself, do I have my radius or do I have my diameter? Okay, which one do I have here? Okay, and if I go back to the definitions here, the radius is the one that stops in the middle and goes to the end. So that's what I want for my formula, and luckily that's what I have. I'm told here, because it goes from one end of the circle to the middle, that my radius is 3. Okay, I don't have my diameter. I could figure it out right now. I don't need to because I need the radius for my formula. So I'm not even worried about my diameter. I have my radius. I have my information. I can plug this now. I can substitute this into my formula. So the area of this circle is equal to pi times my radius, which is 3 squared. Okay, so what I want to do right now is I want to now solve this problem for area. So what I want to do is I want to use my order of operations, and I have to do the exponent before I do my multiplication. So I don't get to do pi times 3. I have to do 3 squared first. So let's talk about 3 squared just real quick. 3 squared is not 3 times 2. That's not what it is. Otherwise, I would have just wrote 3 times 2. Okay, this is an exponent right here. This exponent means I multiply the base by itself 2 times. So this is the same thing as 3 times 3. So when I'm simplifying this formula, I do my exponents first. 3 times 3 is 9, and then I bring down the pi. Okay, so I'm going to move the pi over to the right side just because it looks a little bit better. I have 9 times pi, 9 pi. Okay, so now what I need to do in order to find my area, I need to take 9 and multiply it by 3.14. So I have 3.14 times 9, and now from here, I can go ahead and multiply to solve. Okay, 4 times 9, I'm just going to do this real quick, guys. 4 times 9 is 36. 9 times 1 is 9, but plus 3 is 12. And 9 times 3 is 27, plus the 1 is 28. 1, 2 numbers after my decimal, 1, 2. So I get an area of 28.26. And I'm done. Okay, so that's it. That's all we're going to be doing today. So let's take a look at another one. So here we go. I've got a circle. I'm given the length from one end of the circle all the way to the other. So this is a little bit different than the last problem. Okay, it's going through the center, and that distance is 12. So we need to ask ourselves, what length do I have here? Just my radius or my diameter? And if you go back to what you guys, hopefully when you drew that circle in your note and you labeled and you did vocabulary, we should notice that this is my diameter. So my diameter is 12. Well, if I know my formula doesn't use diameter, it uses the radius. So I've got to figure out, well, what is my radius if my diameter is 12? Well, the radius is just half of this, right? Radius is half of the diameter. So I need to ask myself, well, what is half of 12? And a way I can figure that out is I can just take 12 and ask myself, what is half of it? Half of 12 is 6. Okay, I'm dividing it by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So that means my radius for this particular circle is 6. Okay, so what I can do here is I take my area, multiply it, pi, plug it into my formula. So I've got pi times 6 squared. And now all I do from here is I simplify. I multiply first, I do my exponent, and I always multiply by pi last. 6 squared is the same thing as 6 times 6, which is 36. So my area is 36 times pi. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm now going to use my calculator to do 36 times 3.14. So I'm using my calculator to do 36 times 3.14. And in my calculator, whoops, I got 113.04. So that is my area. And you guys will be allowed to use calculators when we're working on these problems. Okay. Let's just look at one more and then we'll be done. Okay. So now again, I have a circle. I want to find the area. So again, the biggest thing, you guys, is ask the question of, do I have the radius or the diameter first? Because if I write down my formula, I have pi r squared. Okay, so I'm looking for the radius. Am I given the radius in this problem, or am I given the diameter? Because I go from one end of the circle and I stop at the middle, this is the definition of the radius. So my radius is 8. So now I can take that 8 and substitute it into my formula. So the area equals pi times 8 squared. Okay, 8 squared is 64. So my area is 64 pi. And then I can plug that into my calculator. Okay, that's what I'm going to do real quick. 64 times 3.14, and that gives me an area of 200.96. Okay, so biggest thing with area, guys, we have to know this formula. We have to plug in our radius. If we don't have our radius, if we're given a diameter, divide it by 2. Okay, and then make sure you do the exponent first, and then multiply by pi in the very, very end. All right, and that's it for area of a circle. If you have any questions, please let me know. Good luck.